Have you been working on building a thriving business by leveraging Facebook groups, but you're starting to believe the rumors that Facebook groups are dead and they don't work anymore? Maybe you're feeling like you're putting out tons of value and like pouring everything into building this audience, but the minute you put an offer out there, it's crickets. And it's almost like you've been put in the friend zone. Then this episode can be perfect for you. But also, if you feel like you're not even really sure how to engage with the audience, what kind of value you're supposed to be giving, but you've been trying to build your business. And so the only time you really go in there and talk to them is when you're making an offer. And so you kind of feel like the booty call, like you're there for a booty call. Then today's episode is perfect for you because we're going to break down the strategies that you need to build a thriving Facebook group. And the key is that connection is currency, right? And so we're going to break that down for you today. So let's jump in and let's do this.
Striving for a business breakthrough? Shortcut your learning curve to success with the right training, coaching, and support. Welcome to the Impactful Entrepreneurs Show with Adrienne Hill, a show for coaches, course creators, and network and affiliate marketers striving to earn six figures by leveraging social media without being slaves to their businesses. From an overworked hustler to an impactful entrepreneur, your journey starts here on the Impactful Entrepreneurs Show.
Today, I'm here with Christina Jandali. I'm so excited because she is a business growth strategist and an expert in all things Facebook groups, creating them, growing them, and using them to earn and generate six-figure profits. So welcome, Christina.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So excited. So for those of you who maybe haven't met you yet, can you tell me a little bit about your story and your business journey up to today?
Yeah, so today I have the privilege of having helped thousands of people growing their Facebook groups, engaging them, and creating successful sales campaigns and launches within their Facebook group by creating that deeper connection. But, as you can imagine, I didn't wake up one day and say, I want to be a Facebook group expert. kind of fell backwards into it. And it was actually when I first started. I spent years in a corporate career in the corporate space and spent all this time building out a career in the financial sector. And when I transitioned into coaching and consulting and starting an online business, things took a lot longer than I originally expected. I thought poof, I'd put up this page and everyone was going to sign up for my free gift and I'd be building this email list and everyone would want to buy it from me and it was going to be really easy, but it's not quite the way it happened. And I remember just having a moment of complete frustration, thinking that the numbers that I'd set for myself, my goals, I was nowhere near them. I was looking at one page, a piece of paper of what I actually did and what I had set out to do, and they were not even close. And being a driven, ambitious woman, it was a really hard pill to swallow. How can I have done really built out this career and climbed the corporate ladder, and then here I'm not doing so well. And I just I remember just having a moment maybe this isn't meant for me. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I should just give up. Maybe I should just quit. Maybe I should just stop. But when I really looked at what was it that what was I missing? Instead of looking outside of myself for a moment, what really made the difference? What allowed me to create more success in my corporate career? And I realized it was about building relationships and connections with people. And online at the time, it felt really cold to me. I'd send an email. I would wait. I'd obsessively hit refresh. Did they open it? Did they open it? Who's looking? Is anyone paying attention? I was a little bit obsessed with my stats. It's people, their numbers. Oh my goodness. And it felt really cold. And I was who's on the other side of this? And I didn't really know. And I'd gradually grow my email list, onesies and twosies at a time. And I knew there was a better way. And so I thought, how can I create a deeper connection with my people in a place where it's leverage, where I get to do this online? And that's when I started my first free Facebook group. And I went from struggling to try and hit my first 5-figure month, right? Getting close, getting there, still falling short, to opening up my Facebook group, and I had a $30,000 month. And I was what just happened? Whoa. And so I realized I was absolutely onto something. And before long, people started asking me, what are you doing? How are you doing that? Your group's growing so fast. It's so engaged. You seem to be doing so well and enrolling clients. How are you doing that? I'm I don't know. Let's kind of put this together and really systematize what I was doing. And so I started sharing with other people what I learned along the way.
I love that. That's great. And I mean, people hear the word systems and they think that systems have to be complicated, but really it's just breaking down a lot of times what you're already doing so that someone else can follow, right? Like,
I love this because it's like no one wakes up one day and says, guess what? I've come up with this formula. I've come up with this system. I've got it all figured out. Like now everything's solved. Like that's just not how it happens. What happens is you do something, yeah, and it starts working. And then you start to realize like, what did I actually do? And we don't even realize what comes naturally to us and the things that we learn because we just assume everyone thinks the way that we do, or everyone, operates the way that we do. And that's just simply not the case at all. So yes, it's what we go back to after and realize how we put it together.
yeah. So obviously for you, your Facebook group kind of became that catalyst. It made all the difference for you. What's the unique benefit that a Facebook group brings to the table that you don't necessarily get from other social platforms?
So I would say Facebook group is the only community effective, let's put it that way, the only effective community-based platform that's out there. So no matter which social platform you're looking at, like, if you're looking at Instagram, I mean, Instagram, people love it. It's hot. It's like, okay, but to be effective on Instagram, you're spending a lot of, and I certainly am on the platform, but to be effective with Instagram, you're spending a lot of time doing stories, you're doing a lot of DMs. It's a lot of like time, and anything that you're posting is like disappears. Your stories disappear, right? Like 24 hours, poof, it's gone. And it's more of a reactionary based platform. Same with Facebook, like even on your business page, it's more of like a billboard. It's more of like that business card or like the teaser, the window dressing of people wanting to learn more about you, making the invitations to come in. Whereas your Facebook group is like, come on inside. Let's hang out in my digital living room. Let's get to know each other. It's two-way conversation, which is leverage, by the way, because if you're having a conversation with someone in your Facebook group and you're going back and forth in the comments, guess who's watching? The entire group has the ability to be able to like see what's going on. And so they may not be the one that's getting supported or coached or talked to, but they can put themselves in those shoes. And so it's this ability to be able to create leverage, connection, and the opportunity to really create community where it's not just like you posting and people responding, but it's about making it a safe place where people have the opportunity to have a voice and share and ask questions too.
Yeah. I love that analogy, the virtual living room, because it really is. It's like your own little small space, and not everyone can walk into your living room, like
exactly. Yeah.
People that you invite. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So I know there's probably tons of viewers who they have Facebook groups, one or more, they've had them for a while. They never got that epiphany moment like you did, right? Or that massive $30,000 month. And they're thinking like, how did she do this? So what do you think is the difference between those people who have Facebook groups that continue to struggle and those who have Facebook groups like yours did that just kind of take off? Like, is there like a key nugget there or a key strategy?
I think that, there's multiple things that go into it. I think that, just to put in perspective too, is that it's about community, it's about people. And so you've got to have a clear vision of like how you want your members feeling, like how do you want to leave them feeling? What's the experience that you want to be able to have for them so that everything that you're planning, everything that you're doing fits nicely aligned with that. Now, you can get stuck in the friend zone where you're engaging with everyone and everyone's hanging out and they're all having a good time and everyone's engaging with your stuff. And then the moment that you put something for sale, people are like, silent, right? Like you could hear a pin drop and they disappear. You could hear crickets and you're wondering like, geez, I've been doing all this good work and now it's come to an end. And on the flip side, you can have a group where there's a host that shows up, when they want to sell something and then you never see them in between. It's like run more like a booty call, right? It's like, okay, I'm ready now. Like, come on in. And then like they disappear. And then it's like, oh, you kind of leave me hanging here, like leaving first thing in the morning before I woke up. You've left the building. So you don't want to be in those zones, and you certainly don't want to have a ghost town group where no one's talking, no one's buying, no one's doing anything. So what is it that you need to be able to do that? So there's two things that you really need to have in place to have a successful group. And all of it centers around creating a connection with your audience in alignment with that vision that you have. You need two things. You need an engagement. You need a strategy to generate engagement, but not just like hey, do you like coffee or tea? Like, that's not moving anyone towards making a buying decision unless you're selling something to do with coffee or tea, right? But if you're asking someone a simple question, or when you're asking for engagement, you really want engagement where you're actually having the opportunity to get in the head of your ideal clients, to make a deeper connection with them, to build credibility, to build authority, to create vulnerability. There needs to be a purpose behind it, that you're getting, you're opening them up to a conversation. So you need an engagement mechanism in place so that you are engaging people, you're connecting with them, you're learning about them. It's not just a one-way conversation. And then the second thing that you need to have in place is a sales mechanism. Now, without a sales mechanism, you don't have a means to predictively convert your members into buyers. Right.
Mhm.
So it means like, a lot of people are like, oh, should I do 4 value posts and 1 sales post? I was going to do 4 value posts and 1 sales post, and over long, it's like, okay, yeah, you can make some sales that way, but wouldn't it be better to have like a really predictable method that you bring people in, you run through a series of event, like a 5-day challenge, you open up, through a masterclass, you present your offer, you sell for a few days, and then you go back to sort of maintenance mode of your group. Now, when you have that sales mechanism in place, you're deliberately bringing people through an experience from being a lead to becoming a buyer for those that you get to serve. So you need to have both the engagement and sales mechanisms in place.
Well, and what I love, it sounds so simple, but under the undercurrent of everything you're saying, there's this theme of you're not throwing out a random post just to get some likes, or throwing out a random sales post to see if you get 1 sale. Like, every post feeds a longer term goal or a longer term
Absolutely.
purpose. And every sales post, same thing. Like, there's the long term play and the short term play, and you're thinking about both as you're setting those up, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just like you can be pouring out. Oh, here's like one like big takeaway here. It's like you will kill engagement and you will kill sales if all you're doing is pumping out tips and how-tos of content, because that's just overwhelming people. It's like they're trying to drink from the fire hose. They can't keep up. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. And it's not building a relationship. They may be great information. And then you feel like you've run dry, you've given everything away, and they're feeling like, oh my gosh, they can't possibly keep up. And so that's probably the biggest mistake that people make, that kills both engagement and sales.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I know I've been there in the past, right? Of like,
Me too.
give value, like be giving. And when you truly want to serve your audience, yeah, you try to do that. But it sounds like to a detriment in this case, like too much.
Too much. Absolutely. Yeah.
Are there any other, I guess I would call that like a must not, you must not do. Are there any other must nots that you would kind of put in that same bucket?
I think that, I mean, oh my goodness, there's lots of things that you don't want to do, right? You don't want to allow negative Nancy's to flourish in the group, like get rid of them, cut them off, remove, ban. You don't want those people, because it takes one, as they say, like one bad apple to taint the whole batch. So you really need to be like taking it seriously, that your group is a safe space for what it is that you want to cultivate with people. And so, you need to be very clear on your rules and what you're going to allow in the space that you're going to allow to people to come in. So it's important that you stay in alignment with that no matter what, right? Sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to be mean, and oh, maybe they're doing this, but it's going to make a big difference for the vibe that you do. So that's something that's really important. And I think the other thing I would say is like must nots is stop talking at people and talk with people, right? If you're just like always projecting and talking to people and being perfect and trying to look good on the outside and have it all together, and you're not being a real human being, and you're not really connecting with someone and engaging in a 2-way conversation, people are going to tune out.
Yeah. So along those lines, talking with someone instead of talking at them, I know there's tons of coaches out there who advise like you have to show some vulnerability, you have to show that you're real person underneath the person, right? Where's that fine line between like showing vulnerability or looking like you're a negative Nelly by sharing some like personal?
That's a great question. Yeah. So I think that it's really important that, first of all, I always say, don't ever share it when you're in the thick of a challenge. Don't share being in the thick of the challenge. Like, get to the other side of the challenge before you share about being in the challenge, because when things are raw and things aren't working for you and things aren't happening, that's not the time to share, right? Like go talk to your girlfriend, go talk to your friend, go like cry on someone's shoulder, but don't use it as like your space in your group to share, but you have the opportunity to share after. Now we think that oftentimes it's like, we don't want to look into it in like a formula of like, oh, we need like 1 part credibility, 1 part vulnerability, or however people want to look at it, right? Like it was, you know, sometimes we can get like too much in our head and like, okay, it's like so much structured. But instead, what I want you to look at is thinking about this, that vulnerability is from being from a perspective of being open and sharing the journey and not being perfect. So vulnerability doesn't need to mean that you're like bawling your eyeballs with like snot bubbles coming out, like on a puddle of tears. Like, you know, a vulnerability doesn't need to mean that you're ranting about something that's, you know, pissing you off in your industry. Vulnerability can just simply be about just being real in the sense like, hey, you know what, like I did this and it wasn't that easy. Like it was hard. Like it was hard work. It wasn't easy. Like I had to move through all these things. This happened and this broke and then this didn't work. But despite of all that, I was able to do like whatever it was that came about for you, despite all that, because let's be real. If you're picture perfect and people like, oh, you were born with this, you had it all figured out, you didn't have to go through challenges like, oh my gosh, I've failed so many times, I've flopped so many times, I've missed the mark on my goals so many times, I've had posts that have had no engagement, I put offers out that have had 0 sales, but if had it not been for that, I wouldn't have been able to get to where I am today. And you know, I have the gift of running a 7-figure business now, but I never would have got there had I not been through all of those lessons and mistakes that I've made along the way. And so it's really important that you're just sharing, you're honest with both sides, that it's not just a highlight reel. Yes, people want to see that, but they also want the realness. And that's what also gives them the opportunity to feel like it's possible for them, because you didn't have it all figured out and you figured it out. And so they want to learn what you've learned along the way.
I love that. So once you've gotten to the other side and you have the reflection of looking back and saying, I figured it out, that's when you share it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love
now
that.
There's not the emotional triggers that come along with it.
Yeah. So kind of what I love about what you teach and what you've shared so far is that you have like a very structured kind of systematic approach where you're not just throwing spaghetti at the wall, right? You think it through ahead of time and execute it to a plan. So for those people who might be watching who they have a Facebook group and maybe their success is up and down, on and off, kind of all over the place. Maybe they're kind of like in that, like, I think you call it overworked hustler.
Yeah.
They're doing all the work, but they're just not quite stable yet. What are some clues or some signs they might be experiencing in their business today to show them that maybe it's time to have more of that methodical, structured approach?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I think that there's measures, right? Like everything has a measure. And first off, one thing that we want to measure inside your group is your active members, knowing that, so you can go in your Facebook group insights on the left-hand side. When you're in your group, you go in there and you can look in your active members, and you do that as a percentage of your total members inside of your group, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a great measure of being able to see, like, if you have less than 50%, you got some work to do, right? Like, it doesn't matter what level you got some work to do. You know, if you're under 25%, you're in a little bit of trouble, right? But as you kind of progress and as you move up, especially with the smaller group, you really should have a higher percentage of engagement, you know, above 75% of engagement, and sort of between that 50-75% for a larger group, right? Okay. So that's your measure of engagement. But when I say engagement, it's not just measuring people that are liking and commenting, because you can see if people are liking and commenting. But what a lot of people don't realize is that your engagement, your active members, is actually measuring people that are clicking to view, they're watching your videos, they're reading your posts. And that's a true measure of engagement, meaning that they're actually consuming your content. And most people are really surprised that they have way more people that are actually actively consuming their content than they ever thought before. And so they make decisions based on no one's commenting, no one's posting, no one's doing anything. But then when they look at that, they like realize, whoa, like all these people are tuning in, all these people are paying attention. And so when you're stopping and starting with, you know, putting out content, you're breaking trust with those people. So that's your measure for engagement. And then of sales, of course, is like self-explanatory, is like, you're either making sales or you're not. And do you have a predictable way of knowing that, you know, number of people in your group or number of leads in is going to generate a specific number of sales? And if you don't have that level of predictability with what goes in and what comes out, then you get to have an opportunity to really take a look at, like, okay, what am I actually using? What is my sales mechanism? What is my conversion tool that I'm using that's moving people through? And you get to focus on that. But the question I would say, if you're not making sales, when's the last time you made an offer, and how many offers have you made in the last week or the last month? And chances are, I know most people will say not very many or not at all. And so obviously you can't make sales without making offers. So don't forget.
Do you see lots of people like pouring in value, and they're afraid to make an offer?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I used to at the beginning too. I was scared. I was like, I don't want to make an offer. I'm like, it feels uncomfortable. And I knew that I had to. So I would check the box. Like maybe you've had an experience of this before. It's like, I know I need to do this. So I'm going to check the box, even though I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to, I'm going to hit post. And then I'm like, I don't want to look. And what if people aren't going to buy? And I go through all these stories. And so, yeah, I get it. Like I've had that experience and scared to put it out there. And then because of that, energetically, you're repelling people, right? Because of that, you feel uncomfortable. So of course it's going to, have an impact. But the challenge is if you're giving value and you're not making an offer, then what happens is you're training your people to be freebie seekers. You're actually training them to not buy from you. And then so by the time that you actually do make an offer, it's going to feel like it's totally out of left field, and people might even get angry at you or frustrated because they think like, oh my gosh, like how couldn't she, she's been just giving for free forever and nothing, right. She never asked me to do anything. And so, yeah, that's not a good idea either.
Like, how dare she? She's the one I go to for all the free stuff. That is not what, I guess, is that what you call the friend zone?
Yes. But that being said, you guys, I know I said that people will be mad at you. Don't let that stop you. You've got to do it. You've got to put it out there. And if you have the key to unlock something that someone needs to have in their life or their business, or something that you can help them with, you're solving a problem, then it's your duty to get it out there. And if you're operating from a place of fear and you're thinking like no one's going to do it, you're going to miss the mark at really making the impact that I know that you've been desiring for stepping into this space.
Oh yeah. I mean, what you have might be what someone in your group has been praying for. Yeah. Like just praying for it to come to them, and you've been holding on to it. Like that happens, I think.
It does. Absolutely.
So if someone has no Facebook group right now, or maybe they have one with 0 people, or maybe it's full of people, but like 10% engagement, practically 0, right? If they kind of started using more of a structured approach with a strategic long-term goal and kind of the right methodology today, how long could it take them to start to build some momentum and maybe not get 1,000 sales, but see enough change to feel like, hey, this is working?
I think you have to go into it with the expectation within 30 days, you can make a big shift with your group. So,
okay.
And I think that without members, you got to get members first, right? Without members, you can't create buyers. No one's going to be there. No one's going to be paying attention. So you've got to focus on creating the growth inside of your group. But absolutely, if you spent an entire month, and that's what I did when I first started my group, I had 865 members in the very first group that I opened in the first month that I opened it. And that was the only thing that I focused on. I didn't do anything else. I didn't focus on, and even though I made that $30,000 like cash coming in, I wasn't focused on selling. I was just focused on how am I going to grow the group? How am I going to add value? What am I going to do in here? How am I going to serve people? And that was my entire focus. And within 30 days now, I'll be honest, when I first started my very first group, it was a lot easier. But every year we open brand new spanking groups and pop-up groups and test the growth and test things and to see what we're doing. And it still creates results and it still moves. And I've had many students that have built their Facebook group to 1,000 from 0 in 30 days as well. And so it's absolutely is possible. But I know sometimes it's like, oh, was it easier before? And things have changed and it still works. It still works. And that's why it's always important to be on top of like, what is working now and how are people moving and what is it that you need to bring to the table. But 30 days, absolutely, you can see a result. And if you already have members in your group, within a few weeks, like up to a month, you can run a campaign inside of your group that leads to your offer and start to see those sales rolling in.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's super encouraging because I purposely have this summit place where I do so that people can have enough time to prepare to have their biggest quarter ever. Right. So if you start now, it's totally possible, you guys.
There you go. But you got to start. Like that's the thing, right? You have to start, you have to implement, you have to put things into action.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm really curious then, Facebook isn't just a feed or just groups. It's almost like an ecosystem. So I'm
Mhm.
really curious, do you ever cross promote or cross share content between your personal page, your groups, your business page, or fan page? Like, do you have a strategy for handling the ecosystem?
Yeah, so I know this is a question that often comes up. So I don't use my personal page at all, and I don't even remember the last post. I'm sure it was months ago, and I laugh. I'm like, I'm the Facebook person, but personally, I'm like, I use it for business, and then I'm not on the platform.
Mhm.
So I'm not active on my personal page at all. I have it optimized so that if people do land on my personal profile, they can easily find out and go, to find out resources to go to my business page, or when we have a campaign going or go into a group, they have the opportunity to have a call to action to go there. So make it easy. But when it comes to your business page and your group, think about like your business page, and it also, here, I'm going to backtrack a minute. When you're just starting out, you don't need to worry about being active on your business page and your group and everywhere all at once. Like, pick one and really reach a level of mastery with it. When I first started my group, I was not active on my business. I might put one post a week or something on my business page so that someone, found me, they could learn something, and it would invite them to my group. But everything was focused on my group. Once I got my group dialed down, then I started focusing on the business page. Once that got dialed in, and we're talking like, more than a year, you guys, we're talking like a fair bit of time. Then we started adding Instagram, then we started adding, other platforms. But what you're putting on your business page and what you're putting on your group, think about your teasers are on your business page, the invitations, like the teasers of what they're going to get. But the main is like the appetizers on your business page is like the storefront, the window dressing. But the main dish of what your experience, like the experience is, or the conversation that you're having, that's inside of your group. So you're using your business page to be a feeder for your group. You're using your business page to be a feeder to get people onto your email list. Now your group is the container in which you get to create a connection, an experience, a community with people where you get to have that conversation, where you get to go down deeper, you get to answer questions. So it's really where you're having like sort of that core piece. So let's say I was going to do a deep dive training in my group. If I was going to do a deep dive training in the group, I would start teasing about it on the business page, and I'd invite people to come to the group to participate so they could be part of it. So the conversation is still aligned, but it's not the exact same content.
Sure, sure. It's giving them just a little taste and then telling them if you want more.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you use other social platforms the same way? Like you would tease stuff on Instagram or Pinterest or wherever else?
Yeah, so we do use Instagram. I know that it's and I gotta say, it's not a platform I absolutely love, and I know everyone loves it. I'm probably like the only person, one of the few people.
I don't
There
know,
you
it
go.
just never grabbed me. I don't know.
And like, it feels very surface level to me, like on a lot of stuff. And it's like the highlight reels of things. And I think it's changing. There's a lot of, Instagram stories, and I do like the DMs in Instagram, I've got to say, but I mean, you could spend forever in there if you're going to be chatting with forever and ever if you're going to be chatting with people. But we do measure all of our metrics. So think about, if we're running, like we're talking about having sales campaigns. So we'll run the business with running a sales campaign or launches, bringing people through that sales mechanism, right? And doing sales campaigns. So everything that is on all the social media platforms is warming people up, is teasing, is making invitations so people come through that experience. The experience is always through a Facebook group, right? So it's like all these sort of little breadcrumbs of teasers that are going in other places to support what it is that we're doing within the group, and to support what's going out for people that are on our email list at the same time. But it's all working around campaigns. So everything's working together to lead back to the main dish.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's great advice. So I understand that you have a free gift for our viewers. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So I know number one is like, okay, I need members, right? You need to have members in your group if you want to be making sales. So if you want to be building out your group and maybe you're just getting started and you're like, I don't know where to start. Like I'm starting from ground zero, or perhaps you've already started building your group, but maybe you've hit sort of a roadblock or stumbling block, and it's feeling a little bit like a little slowed down a little bit. Or you've been having your group for a while and you're like, oh, just looking for some fresh ideas in order to sort of boost the numbers in your group. Then I've got a free checklist for you. It's how to get 1,000 Facebook group members in 30 days. And it's actually all of the very things that I was doing in the beginning as well to generate those first members. So you can get started on it right away. So I recommend that you pick them up.
Perfect. That's a huge and amazing gift for folks, because honestly, if you scoop this up right now, spend 30 days building up your group, you're perfectly poised to have that highest quarter ever. So perfectly timed. Thank you for that. I'm going to jump in there and peek around.
You're welcome. Yeah. Start now, you guys. Start now. Set yourself up for success. Great advice.
The start is what stops most people. So definitely, with this interview, and certainly with any of the interviews we're doing, take action. Pick one thing you're going to take action on, because if you're just watching this for entertainment, you're not going to get those results. You really do have to pick and choose the pieces that you're going to implement so that you can get those results that you're looking for. So join us in the Facebook group, join the conversation as we debrief and talk through everything we've learned today, all the actions we're going to take, have a brainstorm in the chat. You might just find that you meet a power partner or a new best friend or someone that maybe you'll be interviewing at some point in time. You just never know. So thanks for joining us, guys, and I'll see you in the next interview. Thank you, Christina.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Impactful Entrepreneurs Show with Adrienne Hill, where we support coaches, course creators, and network and affiliate marketers to translate their big picture vision into actionable plans to build out their business efficiently. If you love our show, we invite you to visit buildalifebydesign.com to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover more helpful resources. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share. Thank you for listening.